Hey everybody, I'm Charting Man Dan with the Chart Guys. We're going to check in on the cryptocurrency space. I'm currently fighting a cold, but it's been mild, just persistent. So we're going to check in on Bitcoin battling 35,000. Clearly that is the resistance level right now. Once we cleared 31.8 thousand, there's really nothing in this range. And so we established a new resistance level, which is where we essentially stopped going up. And now we've been battling that level a few times. So you can see 35, this is on Coinbase, but 35,000, 35.1, and then today we got up to 35.1 again, and that's a double top on Coinbase. The bears did reject the price. That said, it's not a collapse. We're still holding on just fine. There's a couple points that I want to make in this stream, and then we'll do a little bit of story time as well, where I'll talk about a wild friend of mine and how he handles his finances with regards to cryptocurrency. There was a tweet that I came across that made me think of him. And I'll have to find that tweet as well. But we are ignoring headlines, okay? Not fully ignoring. We want to be aware of them. But clearly this headline that's going around with, you know, it's this ETF is on the DTCC site and now it's off and now it's on. It doesn't matter at all. And it hasn't led to any unusual price action. You know, we had a bear break here when a headline came out that, oh, it's not on the website anymore. This 4-hour consolidation couldn't have been more due. We had RSI in the 90s on a bunch of time frames. And then we pulled back and we hit 15-minute oversold conditions, and that marked the higher low. Coinbase had a little bit of weird flushes going on. This did not happen on other exchanges, but 15-minute oversold conditions marked the 4-hour higher low, which as we know is a back burner bounce, and which shows us that is best case scenario for the bulls. That is showing us the ideal bull scenario. In the live stream last Monday, 2 days ago, before this most recent break took place, we were able to say we're seeing a lot of characteristics of bull markets going on right now. And it was the rotation that happened over the weekend with altcoin strength, and now we're seeing that continuation of that, which is the back burners marking the longer term higher lows. So there are no red flags in crypto right now. The only question to be asking ourselves is, do we want to take a little bit of profit knowing that we're extremely overextended on the daily and 12-hour time frame? And the answer is obviously differs for every individual, but for me the answer is, what's my exposure like? Do I have a lot of exposure? Did I have an aggressive position a week ago? Do I have a small position? If I have a small position, I'm not selling here. If I have a position that's, a decent size, I can sell partial. I can sell a third of my position. And again, the mindset from there goes to, if it keeps going up, great, I still make more money. If it drops, great, I sold some. I have more cash, I can reload cheaper. And again, that's the way that I like to be in terms of scaling in and out of positions. We know daily consolidation is inevitable. The bulls are doing a great job of fending it off. If we get over this $35,000 resistance, there is a lack of resistance until, we're looking up to 38 to 40,000 from here. Do I think we're going to shoot straight up there? No, but if you asked me, what's going to be the follow through if we trigger stops at 31.8 thousand? I would not have looked for 10% upside. We already had some overbought RSI levels, so it's extremely impressive that the bulls were able to follow through this significantly. That shows a ton of shorts stopping out and a ton of longs triggering, and that is now the level for 2024. Bulls really want to hold any back test. For me, it's 31 to 31.8 is the range. And so bulls want to hold any back test of that level as support now after it was acting as resistance so often. And so we can look and say, all right, what would it look like to go back and test that level? Well, there would be no red flags on the daily consolidation if we were to pull back and hold 31.8. In fact, it's possible that daily EMA 12 will be catching up to that level at that point. So bulls are still just fine. Short-term support, 33,000. That's our 4-hour higher low. We can say bulls have complete control as long as 33,000 is support. I mean, we haven't even tested 4-hour EMA 12 in the last couple of days. So it's still just showing us significant strength. The only long entries up here are for short-term day trades. You don't enter long when the daily RSI is up in the 88s. It doesn't mean short. We don't just short because RSI levels are overbought, but we don't go long. It tells us what not to do. So if you're looking long, it's something like, again, just an example, my style of trading would be entering, if I want to be aggressive and enter 15-minute oversold conditions on the initial bounce, I sell half. Let's say I'm in at 33.4 and I sell half at 34. I can then stick my stop under the low, risk-free. I cannot lose. And if we keep going up, great, I profit. And if we don't and we roll over into further consolidation, I don't lose $1 and I stop out. So that's my kind of entries. We just hit 15-minute oversold. So now what are we looking for from here? Now it'll be next hourly oversold conditions that we're keeping an eye out for. And the best case for the bulls will be just first hourly oversold, mark a daily higher low. And if the answer is yes, that shows continued, persistent strength from the bulls. Right now, I was just shorting the breaks of 35,000 by shorting MARA. So every time Bitcoin spiked to 35,000, I shorted MARA, I exit partial, short MARA, exit partial, short MARA, exit partial, and it ended up working out. I was trying to hold for, some more significant consolidation, and I'm all out of that position now, and that ended up being a nice day maker. But, I look at this, I look at Bitcoin's response, and it's bouncing off EMA 12 on the hourly, and an hourly higher low was just set. And we just had a little 5-minute inverse head and shoulders mark the hourly higher low. And so again, there's still no red flags. The bulls are trying to remain within striking distance of 35,000. If it's going to be a convincing rejection, confirm the 15-minute downtrend. So we have a new key short-term support level, 34.4. Simple statement. If 34.4 is holding, the bulls have complete control and they're staying within striking distance of the highs. If we lose that level, we're going to zoom out and look for a 4-hour EMA 12 test. This is the kind of scenario where, right now you look at the daily charts and you look at the RSI and you say, I'm going to start looking short on some altcoins. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just number one, obviously always use a stop. And number two, it's the kind of scenario where I'll give myself a try. And if I'm wrong, I'm not going to keep trying to trade against this momentum. Again, 2 days ago, we could say the last week of cryptocurrency is clearly different than the 3 months prior. We could see that with just observations of the little details and the nuances of rotation and things like that. And so you can give it an attempt, and it's the kind of thing where, say I short Bitcoin over 35,000 and I cover partial at 34.7 and then I just stick a stop break even. If I stop out break even, then I get my chance back again because it's only break even. But if I take a small loss, I don't want to keep racking up small losses trying to trade counter this momentum right now. So if you are thinking on the bear side of things, looking for daily consolidation, just be, really picky and imagine you've only got one chance. Because again, we don't want to be banging our head against the walls. One more thing to go back to. Remember, one of the last live streams where we were saying Bitcoin right now is the tightest 6 to 7 month period in at least the last 6 years. We know volatility is coming. And again, technical analysis, if not for anything else, is great for telling you when volatility is coming. We couldn't say we're going to break bull or bear. We could have leans in one direction or the other, but we knew volatility was coming. And again, it's just look for tight, longer term setups. It's the same thing as Link. Link forever tight sideways range. We know a break in volatility is coming. So as a trader, as a technical analyst, I've made this point many times, but just scout the tightening ranges. Whether it's a short-term tightening range for a day trade or a long-term tightening range for a swing trade, find the ranges that tell you a break is coming and volume and volatility are coming. So we'll check back in on Bitcoin before the end of the stream to see if this 15-minute lower high is shaping up. Again, if we confirm the 15-minute downtrend, the next target will be, I guess, first 5-minute oversold conditions because we didn't get there. But 4-hour EMA 12, we'll be keeping an eye out for that. So our lead bulls are still leading. Link So the way that this has played out right now is we had some Bitcoin strength. We had Link and Sol, our top watch altcoin bulls, because of their relative strength, got the lead breakout. Then we scouted the laggards. We looked at names like QNT for the daily falling wedge, which, again, bulls could not have asked for any better follow-through than what we got. And then ETH, daily falling wedge, some of the laggards. And then it was Bitcoin's turn again. So it went Bitcoin, Link and Sol, laggards, back to Bitcoin for the break over 31.8 to 35, and now back to Link and Sol. And so what are we going to get? Are we going to get another rotation to the laggards again? I mean, that's what's been going on so far. And Link is just, or I should say QNT is just keeping 4-hour EMA 12. Simple statement. A bull does not have anything to worry about if 4-hour EMA 12 is support. That is your support guide. You could say, I'm going to hold this runner position as long as 4-hour EMA 12 is support. Resistance from here on QNT, looking up at 106, and that's where we stalled out. Where's that 106? That's that weekly lower high, and then 114. And we'll look for a 4-hour higher low, next consolidation, with space for that to form. I lost my screen here. Going to take a screenshot to talk about that in a moment. I'm going to pull up the YouTube, and then we'll get back to some more of these altcoins. Where am I going? Okay. Thanks. Thanks for the likes and stuff. All right. So, Sol. I'm watching this 12-hour channel, or the 4-hour channel on Sol. And just a tiny little, I drew this first thing this morning. Tiny little tweak because we have new price action there. And this is a good visual guide. It's a good guide for some resistance that's been slowing down the price, but it's a good guide for bull control as well. We will not see any daily consolidation in Sol if this 4-hour uptrend line is support. When we lose it, daily consolidation is likely underway. It's a daily stair-step pattern, higher low every single day, 6 days in a row. The next resistance level, 38.79, 39. So there's no resistance nearby. When there's no resistance nearby, you're just using the trends as your guide. You know, sometimes we have profit targets just under resistance, and sometimes we say, I'm just going to hold it as long as it's a 4-hour uptrend. Lose a 4-hour uptrend, I'll exit the position. And so then just every 4-hour high or low, you just walk up your stop and stick it under that level. But Sol is still really strong with the inside bar bull break. And again, we're just, you know, any long entries at this point are on consolidation and ideally trying to get risk-free as soon as possible because we know we're days away from, you know, any moment now daily consolidation can begin. And so we just have to protect against, if we enter any positions in the short term, we have to protect against any possibility that we're buying right before daily consolidation begins, because obviously that's the last thing we want to be doing. So Sol is going to keep testing this resistance. We've got an hourly higher low set at 32.28. Bears would have to confirm the hourly downtrend to test that 4-hour uptrend support. Link has gotten follow through as well. Again, the upper wicks where bull break consolidation, bull break consolidation, bull break consolidation. I'm not going to say it's a rising wedge, but it's the characteristic of a rising wedge, which again just tells us bulls are tiring and we want to be a little bit protective. Short-term support, 1073 for the bulls to try and keep complete control. We broke sideways. We broke out of the sideways forever range. We're hitting multi-year highs or 1.5-year highs, and we're looking at 1229 as the next resistance level. But again, you know, these altcoins, in my opinion, they're not going to top out because of a previous resistance level. They're going to top out when it's, you know, loss of uptrends. So in situations like this, unless it's a clear resistance from space that everybody's looking at, like Bitcoin 31.8 thousand, or like Link, whatever its monthly resistance was, unless it's crystal clear like that, I then just focus on the short-term here and now trends rather than, you know, what's a little daily resistance level from a year and a half ago. That little resistance level isn't going to be the deciding factor. ETH. Oops. Broke my phone on a live stream the other day. Just in that way. So ETH, falling wedge, broke bull. But if we look at ETH BTC, it tells us that it is still extremely weak and Bitcoin is still the better place to be. And as long as we're in a daily downtrend on a BTC pairing, it doesn't mean you can't make money as a bull in that altcoin. It just means that there's more money to be made elsewhere. And so as long as ETH BTC is in a daily downtrend, rejecting from EMA 12 resistance, there's better places to be. And again, we go down our altcoin list, and that's why Link and Sol stood out to us. And any other coin that is showing relative strength stands out because there's so few of them right now. And so Link BTC, daily higher low set. Sol BTC, daily higher low set. So those are now key to be keeping an eye on. Bulls need to maintain that if they're going to keep maintaining their relative strength. We know eventually these lead alt bulls are going to turn into lead alt bears. They're going to be consolidating faster than anything else. Maybe not within days, maybe not within weeks, but that's the way that the cryptocurrency space works in its game of rotation. You have lead bulls always turn into lead bears. And so we just have to keep monitoring, just don't take it for granted. Oh, Sol's been stronger and one of the stronger altcoins for the last, 2 months. And then don't become complacent. Have to keep watching and saying, okay, got to ensure that we're staying a lead bull because I know eventually the tables will turn and it will be one of the hardest consolidators at some point in time. So we just have to be prepared for that and ensure that we observe that when it is happening. As far as names that are standing out weaker, so here's an example where I do care about resistance because it's recent. 144, 147, and here we just topped out at 144 again. So there is a resistant zone that is rejecting the price at the moment on OP, and I go to OP BTC, and I can see it's at the lows, so it's still clearly relatively weaker. If I am going to look to short an altcoin, I want to choose a name that's in a clear daily BTC pairing downtrend and hitting fresh lows, and ideally a name that has a nice clear resistance zone nearby. So OP, but again, we can make a statement, OP bears aren't going anywhere unless Bitcoin starts to show signs of a temporary top being set. And then once it does, we're just going to look for a daily higher low. Mana had a big time breakout. It's, again, just bull break. These are rising wedge characteristics. We know they can keep grinding higher, but we certainly don't want to be buying resistance breaks. The Bitcoin resistance break, if you asked me beforehand, again, this is just being honest, if you asked me beforehand, is it a good buy, Bitcoin over 31,800? I would say no. And that would have been wrong. There would have plenty of follow through. But you can see here on all these altcoins, bull breaks are not the time to be buying because we're showing bull exhaustion. And we're still grinding higher, but it's showing us the bulls are slowing a bit. So again, just recognize that. Binance clearly has some relative weakness. The best case scenario for the crypto bulls from here will be when Bitcoin has clearly topped for now. Bulls want to see a pullback for a 12-hour higher low and then a sideways range. And while that sideways range takes place, they want to see the dominance chart drop. Because if Bitcoin is trading sideways and dominance has daily consolidation, it's the same thing that happened last weekend. This characteristic of the crypto market that happened last weekend gave us some clues of strength returning. And it was the rotation game. It was Bitcoin sideways, dominance drops for 2 days, altcoins get a 2-day pop. And so we're going to look for the same thing into this weekend. We still got a couple days to go, but we're watching for Bitcoin to top, trade in a sideways range with no major red flags, looking for a 12-hour higher low and then tighten up sideways. Dominance daily consolidation, which shows us altcoins getting a leg up again. And what that would show us is capital movement in the markets going from Bitcoin to Link and Sol and then to ETH and these other altcoins, and just the profits rotating and swirling around, which is, again, best case for the bulls. As far as the crypto stocks, they are clearly way weaker. Why are they way weaker? Why is MARA? Well, MARA has dilution. Second time we've had dilution. If you don't know what dilution is, Google ChartGuys dilution, in-depth video explaining it. Second time we've had dilution in like 3 months. Red flag for long term. The most important factor for investing in a stock is what does the convertible debt, share structure, and dilution look like? And so, a lot of people think, oh, well, MARA, I'll just invest long term because it's a miner, and if Bitcoin goes up, that's beneficial. To a certain degree, yes, but if they continue, just imagine if you could make Bitcoin out of thin air. That's what they're doing with MARA shares. So you have to understand dilution if you're talking about investing in anything. But that's one of the reasons we're weaker is dilution. But let's say Riot. All right, Riot hasn't really had much dilution. Why was Riot in July up at 20 and we're now half the price when Bitcoin is higher than where we were in July by 10%? How does that make any sense? Well, I'll tell you. Riot and these crypto stocks are characterized as growth names. High risk, high reward. They don't have established business models and, an Apple balance sheet of cash. They are high risk, high reward growth names. IWM shows growth. IWM is the Russell 2000. It's 2,000 small growth stocks. Look at July. What have we done since then? 3 months of straight down. So we are now down over 10% from there. And growth stocks are getting crushed over the last 3 months. That is your answer. Why are crypto stocks down compared to Bitcoin? Compared to a bunch of months ago, IWM has been nothing but bears for 3 months. It just had a year-long monthly equilibrium break bear. And we're close to confirming a 3-month long-term downtrend if we break the low of 2022. There's a lot of red flags shaping up in IWM, which means those red flags carry over to these crypto stocks. Bitcoin going up is one factor, but this is a huge factor. Coin. Where was Coin over the summer? I don't know. Trading view is a bit slow today. Over the summer, 114. It is 30% lower. IWM, if you're looking at what matters, it's Bitcoin and IWM are what matter for crypto stocks. So you got to pay attention to IWM if you're trading these names. Well, if you're swing trading these names or investing in these names. Day trading doesn't matter as much. It's a factor, but not a critical factor. All right, let's see if there's anything else I want to talk about. I'm not going to take any requests today, unfortunately, but we'll do story time in just a minute. My throat is sore, and I don't want to talk a bunch. Honestly, right now is the time to be scouting bears. But only if you're, a confident trader. Because this is the market environment where if you're not a confident trader, you want to trade with the trends. You want to buy daily consolidation, look for a daily higher low. But here's RNDR trying for a 12-hour lower high. If we drop down and break $2, that will tell us things are shifting a bit. And again, bears just need to be quicker with profit taking and try and get risk-free as fast as possible. Bitcoin 15-minute support coming into play. Bulls hoping for an equilibrium. Again, if it breaks and we confirm the 15-minute downtrend, we zoom out to the 4-hour and we look for a 4-hour test of EMA 12. Okay. All right, so story time. Let's do a quick story time and then we'll see where we stand. So this is in response to a tweet, which I thought was funny and is true to a certain degree, and I'll tell you how true it is. So the tweet was, BlackRock isn't making Bitcoin go up. The countless psychopaths that have held through 70% drops and bought more is why the price goes up. That's definitely true to a certain degree. And so this takes me to my friend. And this friend is an individual who I lived with a decade ago. I lived with him probably for 3 or 4 years. And he was an entrepreneur. And it was when we were living in a community house and we rented this house, or he rented this house. I was doing work trade there. I was the farm manager, but we turned it into a mini farm. And, we had pigs, sheep, goats, ducks, chickens. It was a house where bands coming through town would come and stay and play shows. Sometimes 9 people lived there. Sometimes 2 people lived there. It was just a community house. And it was wild to think that we were doing all this and painting the walls, murals while we were renting. I don't know. I wasn't on the lease, so whatever. But so this individual, entrepreneur helped me start the Chart Guys, or helped encourage me to start the Chart Guys. 2 weeks in, I told him how many, views I was getting, and he said, "You're about to be much bigger than you ever think is possible." And I said, "Yeah, that'd be cool. We'll see." But he saw it before anybody. And he's also the person where, I bought my first ETH in May of 2017. I put in $2,500. Said, all right, I know Blue Sky Breakout. I want to dip into this new thing. And I told him, I bought some ETH. And then the next day he walks into the kitchen and says, "I'm all in ETH." And so that just sums up his personality type. And so I have to give big credit for that because, I then have a vivid memory of sitting in a hot tub that day or the next day and being like, all right, should we go aggressive here? Is this, and then just planning it out and envisioning, all right, well, if I put in $30,000, we go 100%, I get a down payment for a house. That's feasible in Blue Sky Breakout. And then, of course, next thing you know, we go up 5,000% plus. So way exceeded expectations. But I can owe me 10 timesing my size, 12 timesing my size in crypto in May to him, to his aggressive approach. And the difference between us is after, I view it as I've won the game in markets in the sense that, I can do things now and go way more conservative and be comfortable for a very long time. Whereas he's in the same position, but his pedal is to the metal and his brain just works so much differently than mine. And that's why we worked well together as a team. And so, he's the kind of person where he goes all in Bitcoin. And I don't just mean all in crypto exposure. I mean like all in Bitcoin. And so, he went in, he had a scenario where he helped start a company a decade ago and wasn't passionate about it. And so he kept 1%. Company blows up to $500 million valuation. And his 1%, pays out very nicely for not having to do anything aside from, coming up with the name and concept. But takes that money, buys Bitcoin heavily into the CVID fear dump, and does obviously very well. And so it's the kind of thing where, I have diversification interventions with him where he will tell me what he's doing. His version of diversification is, well, I'm going to keep my 100 Bitcoin and I'm going to put in $500,000 into MARA calls. That's his diversification. And so it's the kind of thing where, I've been right plenty of times where back at 50,000, I'm saying, hey, take some profit, at least cover your taxes, because he's refusing to sell Bitcoin to pay taxes. And so sell it, pay your taxes, buy coin puts, buy puts in these companies to hedge the Bitcoin that you're not going to sell. Because when we top out from all-time highs, you and I both know we're going to drop 50% plus. And so he doesn't do that. But, it's just wild to me that he'll ride out $8 million net worth to $3 million net worth. And so the most recent example is what made me chuckle about that tweet was just, he told me 5 days ago, he sold a house and put in all of it, $780,000 into Bitcoin 5 days ago. And it's just wild to see how his brain works so much differently than mine. So I've got another planned diversification intervention next week, and I don't think it's going to be successful, is the kind of thing where it's like, had he listened to me in 2021, he'd have a lot more money right now. But I also wouldn't have had him aggressive from the CVID dump lows to 60,000. So he definitely made way more than if he had listened to me as well. I'm more conservative on both sides of things. But there's some psychopaths out there that are just putting every dollar that they make into Bitcoin. And that's why, Bitcoin will never go to zero. There is always somebody that is going to buy it. And it's the diehard maniacs who can sleep through net worth flux. I was just thinking about it. I just imagine that the fake headline for Bitcoin and spiked to 30,000, like his net worth in the span of an hour changes $250,000. That just blows my mind. But you got to risk it to biscuit. You got to risk something about risking a biscuit. All right. I'm done. Appreciate you watching. Bitcoin 15-minute tightening up. Break it bull, 4 hour is going to fend off consolidation, and break it bear. We'll look for 4 hour EMA 12 support test. And again, right now there's just patient traders saying bulls have full control. And again, this is where your long-term no-touch position or half of a remaining swing position is your anti-FOMO, where you're not, itching to buy. What if it goes up to 37 from here? Well, I'll keep benefiting if it goes up to 37 from here. But if I'm going to have good risk reward on an entry from here, it's going to be looking for, gold just did it. Look at gold doing the back burner thing. Gold, breakout, straight up, 2 weeks in a row. First, hourly oversold conditions. Back burner, marks the daily higher low, and now it's a potential daily bull flag. Back burners are so useful in bull markets in terms of knowing when to have good risk reward entries and not chasing. I would love a statistic of all of my profit in markets. What percent are back burner bounces? And I have no idea, but I know it's a lot. It's the majority. So we'll keep an eye out for hourly oversold from here. Again, keeping in mind, Bitcoin did just hit 15-minute oversold, so we've used that up. Doesn't mean next 15-minute oversold won't bounce. It just means it's less confident. It's not the ideal setup. The ideal back burner is the first time that time frame gets to oversold. And so if we get, a double top into 15-minute oversold again, it's not the same thing. Don't treat it the same way. Maybe you use smaller position size. Maybe instead of buying at 31 RSI, you buy at 27 RSI. Whatever it is, you got to adjust a bit and just recognize it's not the same thing as the ideal scenario. Appreciate the likes and subscribes and all that. Risk it for the biscuit. Thanks. I had it. I was there. All right. Have a good day. Do good things. And don't feel FOMO. We're all getting the messages. Should I increase my exposure into Bitcoin? Well, why not at 18,000 or 20 or 25? You can't increase swing positions when the daily RSI is this high. It's just not good risk reward. It'll work out 15% of the time. It won't work out 85% of the time. And again, big picture, I am not sold we're going to all-time highs. And I actually did a vote on Twitter, and it was a 50-50 split, where I said, through 2024, is Bitcoin, I guess I can't draw anymore. Is Bitcoin going to all-time highs, or is it going to form a long-term tightening range? And it was a 50-50 split. Half said all-time highs are coming, and half said a lower high in a tightening range. And that was more, especially coming after this move, that was more lower highs than I expected. And honestly, I would rather, if I want to be confident in a lower high, I would rather 80% of people be saying that all-time highs are coming. But again, we're going to have this diversification intervention, and he's going to tell me how he's certain all-time highs are coming because of the halving and the ETF. And I'm going to tell him absolutely a possibility, but I'm anticipating the most likely scenario is a lower high, somewhere 45 to 55,000. I'm looking for this to happen again, but on a wider range and a more drawn out time frame. So what would that look like? Again, you can measure, this bounce retracement was 65% plus. So if this were going to be the same thing in terms of retracements and such, we would get up to 50,000, and maybe that's your ETF, and having bull push another 50% higher from here. And then if you fail that all-time high, we look for the pullback in the higher low. Again, just looking for this. Equilibriums are the most likely scenario when you have this kind of volatility. And then maybe 2025, 2026, 2025, we look for the break of that tightening range. But it's not a hill I'm going to die on. It's not a, I see so many people, and you all see them on Twitter and social media, where their convictions are, set in stone. I am very agile and fluid with my convictions. What's the broader market doing as this is shaping up? Is it going to have a major impact for me? What's the dollar, the 10-year? What are these things doing? But again, I just want to reiterate, have two game plans for 2024. All-time highs and lower high tightening range. Do good things. See you soon.